Welcome into sportsbookreview.com. This is the college football show. I'm Gary.
And I'm Chris.
And this is the opening of SEC football. I am jacked about this. It's going to be a good time. But before we get into all of these games, because it is a plethora of information that we're about to drop on you. I'm telling you, before we get into all of these amazing matchups that are going to start here in an hour, let me go ahead and tell you to do yourself a favor. Go over to sbrpicks.com/NCAAF. That's got all the college football content that you need for the entire season. We're going to be here all year long. It's going to be a fantastic time. Hopefully, you will jump in and stick around with us. We have got several guys already in the chat, and we are ready to rock and roll. Frankie jumps in. Have no fear. I am here. Frankie's been on a roll, man. Frankie has been knocking it out. Let's see. Caliph Pesto says, I'm waiting patiently for the inside scoop. Let's not forget to mention the plethora of elite talent the Gators have at defensive back, as well as LSU. King said, I agree with this being the first week of SEC play. I'm betting with teams that have defense. Yeah, that's the way it goes. That's the way it goes. You normally would think that, right? We'll talk about it. We'll talk about all of it. Go ahead and like the show. Share it out. Tell your friends about it, all that good stuff. And make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We are here live every Tuesday afternoon at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time and every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, trying to get you ready for the games. We're going to give you our picks. We're going to roll through all of the week's action, and hopefully we might entertain you a little bit. That's what we're here for. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive in to the Thursday and Friday night recap. Not a whole lot to discuss here, but we did want to at least mention it. And that is UAB wins 42-10 at South Alabama. South Alabama had covered two straight, looked pretty good against Tulane and against Southern Miss, and UAB just took them behind the woodshed. That was crazy. So who knows what to make of this UAB team without their starting quarterback, but they looked pretty good. That defense with Bill Clark is always fantastic. So with that said, moving on to the Friday night slate, this was actually a very interesting game. Middle Tennessee State, who has looked like they were just completely out of it, they came back and they looked all right against UTSA, who is now the first 3-0 team in either the NFL or college football. Who would have ever thought that UTSA, with a brand new coaching staff, would be the first team to get to 3-0? But either way, they win 37-35. They do not cover. So Middle Tennessee and Rick Stockstill actually get a cover for the first time in quite a while. They were not blown out. They made it a game, is what it is. King said, finally. And Jay Jones said, LOL, let's make some money. Dexter Rojas said, call me crazy, but I believe Arkansas plus 28 is what I want. Hey, you know what? We'll talk about this. We'll talk about this. Let's go over the postponed games for today. You will not be able to get action on these because obviously they are not being played. We had money on a couple of these. Wake Forest and Notre Dame, not happening. That was called off earlier in the week. I had a Notre Dame minus 16.5, but that one has been wiped out. So it is what it is. Georgia State at Charlotte has been postponed. That is that's terrible because I thought Georgia State was incorrectly an underdog in that one. And Tulsa at Arkansas State, that is a game that both Chris and I had wagers on. I had the under 66, and Chris had Arkansas State outright. South Florida and at Florida Atlantic, that one has been called off, and North Texas at Houston. So those we will have no action on, is what it is. So we will move on from there. If you missed our official picks on Tuesday, let me go ahead and give those out for you guys just so that everybody knows where our stances were on Tuesday. Very quickly, I had South Carolina plus 3.5, Auburn minus 7, Pittsburgh minus 2.5, TCU plus 3.5, Army plus 14, UCF at ECU under 77, and then I had the Arkansas State Tulsa under, and that one has been wiped out. Chris's picks on the other side. Chris has Central Florida minus 27. He had the Arkansas State pick. That's out. West Virginia plus 8.5 at Oklahoma State. Ole Miss plus 14.5 at home against Florida, and Syracuse plus 8.5 at home in the Carrier Dome against Georgia Tech. So, before we roll through these games, Chris, anything on your mind?
No, man. I mean, I'm just ready for football. I'm ready to get through this. I'm ready to get back downstairs and get the TVs going.
Let's rock and roll. It is SEC football day. I am jacked about this. Let's go. First game on the docket here. Though, if you want to follow along with us, by the way, you can do that over at sbrodds.com. Very simple. Just go and click on NCAAF right there, or you can do sbrpicks.com/NCAAF. I'm telling you, we got everything you need. Every sports book that you possibly need is going to be right there. You can shop the lines. That's what we tell you every week. Go shop the lines. Get the line that's best for you. Make sure that you are betting what you actually want, and SBR is going to help you out with that. So the first game on the docket is Campbell at App State. Look, not going to spend long on this. Obviously did not do a deep dive. It is sitting at 35 or 35.5 at a lot of spots. If it's 35.5, I would take a gander at Campbell. They have won me money 2 weeks in a row, or two games in a row. So go with Campbell. They're not a terrible team. App State might be fired up about losing at Marshall. I don't think that their defense is all that great. Campbell has got some players, man. They got some players. So do yourself a favor. Go check out that game if you want to bet it. It's under it. Well, now it's at 36.5 at a couple spots. So I'm just saying, tossing that out there. Central Florida and East Carolina. Chris, it is sitting at 28 at a lot of spots. You can get it at 27.5. Tell me again why you feel so good about UCF.
I just think UCF is just far more talented, far more athletic. They've got speed that East Carolina is just not going to be able to keep up with at every level of the football game. On defense, all three phases, levels. On offense, all three levels. They're just not going to be able to keep this thing close, I think, and it's going to come down to just speed and athleticism for Central Florida.
You might be right. I love Mike Houston at East Carolina. I think with this being the first game, I'm not a fan of it. This is a stay away for me because I love Mike Houston. I love that offense. You know, they were rocking and rolling last year. I've got the under in this game based on pretty much principle alone. And I understand the numbers. I know when a game is totaled at 76, 77, more times than not, it goes over. But this is the first game of the year for East Carolina. Like I'm going under on that 77. I feel pretty strong about that. It's going to take a little bit to get your sea legs under you. Next game up here, 397 and 398 are the rotation numbers, and that would be Georgia Tech at Syracuse. The line currently sits at Syracuse plus 7.5. I do kind of like Syracuse in this spot. Georgia Tech with a freshman quarterback, Jeff Sims, he's looked fantastic, right? Everything has looked good. And there were some missed scoring opportunities against Central Florida last week that they could have really kept them in the game. Had they not turned the football over, all that kind of stuff, that could have been a completely different ball game. However, Syracuse's 3-3-5 defense has completely stifled North Carolina and Pitt so far. This is not a defense that a lot of teams are used to playing. I think it's why Syracuse put it in. I think that's a good spot for Syracuse here. You feel the same way, obviously, with your Syracuse plus 8.5 earlier in the week, right?
That's right. Yeah, I think Syracuse has a chance to win this football game. I trust Dino Babers. I think it's going to be all on the defense and just keeping this thing close. Don't turn the ball over, and when you get turnovers, capitalize.
Yes, absolutely. All right. With that said, we're going to stay in the ACC. We're going back to the Northeast. Louisville and Pitt, 401, 402 rotation numbers. So this is sitting at, you can find it, Pittsburgh minus 2.5. In most places, it's minus 3, right? There's a lot of different spots here. I really like Pitt in this spot. I don't trust Louisville right now. Their defense, as good as they played for the majority of the game, they still had massive breakdowns at key spots in the ball game. Pitt, I think, is actually a pretty good football team. Now, they ran up against that 3-3-5 from Syracuse last week, but Louisville does not run anything like that. I really like Pittsburgh here. I think Kenny Pickett is going to be able to throw the football in this defense. I think they're going to be able to run. They're going to control the line of scrimmage because they got the dudes. They absolutely got the dudes. Let's see. Tolkien jumps in and said Louisville money line. There you go. If you want to do that. Frankie said Pitt should be minus 6. I'm staying away. Yeah, cheers to it. Like, look, when I first saw this line, I thought, why in the world is Louisville not favored? Like, they've got more speed, they've got whatever. But when you actually do a deep dive, like, my numbers had Pitt closer to a touchdown. I'm going to trust the numbers right now. Like, I feel really, really good about it. The total on that one is 54, 53.5, 54, 54.5, wherever you want to find it. I'm staying away from the total. I don't feel great about that because I could see this one getting a little crazy because, Louisville has the speed, but Pitt would like to keep this under if they can. But if Louisville ends up scoring some garbage touchdowns, et cetera, this thing could absolutely go over. So I'm staying away from it. This one is right in your wheelhouse, Chris. The next game, we're moving to SEC play. That's right. The Lane Train, Dan Mullen, rocking it out in Oxford. Florida is going to Ole Miss. It is rotation 4-19 and 4-20. Currently, Florida is a 14-point favorite pretty much across the board. You can find a 13.5. You can find a 14.5, depending on which way you want to go. Tell me what you're thinking.
I just think Lane Kiffin's going to have the guys ready. I think he's a really good football coach. And I think they've got a lot of speed and athleticism at the wide receiver position. And I believe they're going to run more of a Baylor-style offense, which is kind of the offensive guys that he brought in.
Yeah.
Which means a lot of 4 verticals, open up things underneath for the running back to either get the dump off to. If they play Plumlee can run. He's also a weapon. If they don't, I just trust Lane.
I can understand that.
And I think they're going to keep this close. I really do. I think Florida's a really good team. I pick them to win the East this year, but that doesn't mean they're just going to open the season off just coming down to Oxford and beating the hell out of somebody.
Dan Mullen, 7-1 against the spread on the road in the SEC. Since he got to Florida. So 7-1, not too bad. I feel okay about it. I kind of like the other side, but this is absolutely a stay away from me because I don't know what to expect. I think Florida has got the massive defensive advantage, and from everything that I have heard down in Oxford, they are having a difficult time with this up tempo offense. They've had a bunch of turnovers, and that's not exactly a Florida defense that the Ole Miss offense is going against in practice. So I'm a little scared of it. I do like where you're thinking because I love Lane Kiffin. I love what they do. They are incredibly entertaining. Jeff Lebby, he brings that Baylor style. He did it at UCF. I think he can absolutely do it at Ole Miss, but we shall see. We shall see. Next game up, while we are still in the noon slate, of course, 425, 426, that's Georgia Southern at Louisiana. There was a lot of talk that this one may not happen because Louisiana has had contact tracing, et cetera. Opened at least on the SBR page, Louisiana Lafayette minus 15.5. It is now down. You can get it at 11 at several spots, 11.5. There's a 12 on the board. Kind of scary. Like, this is one that I'm staying away from because I feel like Louisiana is the significantly better team, but if they got a bunch of guys out, which they do, they've got Elijah Mitchell out, starting running back. He is their superstar, NFL, tailback, etc. He is out for this game. Like, I ain't touching it. Is this one that you are any bit interested in?
Nope.
Not in the slightest. All right. 423, 424 is Kansas State and Oklahoma. This was a massive upset last year. This is the real opening of the Spencer Rattler show, I think. Kansas State obviously has had some COVID issues. There was talk earlier this week that this game may not happen, but it looks like they met the threshold. Everything is good to go. And the line currently sits at 27.5 across the board. So if you really like Kansas State, I would suggest that you buy the hook. I kind of like Kansas State in this spot. The problem is that we don't know who's out. They're not releasing who is actually out for the game, and that's what makes it terrifying. Oklahoma looked great playing against Air on pay-per-view a couple of weeks ago, right? So why would we trust that they would be able to? I mean, Kansas State beat them 48-41 last year. Now, Kansas State had to replace the majority of the team, but they still got some big dudes in the trenches. Like, I would think that they'd be able to keep this thing within 4 touchdowns, but this ain't a play for me.
Yeah, no, I'm staying away from this completely. Kansas State didn't look sharp against Arkansas State a few weeks back. Arkansas State has an explosive offense, not close to as explosive as Oklahoma.
You're 100% right about that. I like Skylar Thompson. I like what he does at quarterback, but I don't know that he's enough to be able to keep up with Oklahoma if they are indeed fired up and irritated. Now, let's move back into the SEC here. Kentucky at Auburn. And this is one that I am going against a lot of media pundits, right? 437, 438 is the rotation number if you were keeping up with us over at sbrodds.com. I like Auburn a lot in this spot.
Me too.
It's down to 6.5. Everybody and their mother is on Kentucky. Kentucky's got the better offensive line. Kentucky's got the better defensive line. Kentucky's the more consistent team. They return more production. They do this. Like, guys, sometimes we overthink stuff just a little too much, and Kentucky is the absolute hype here. Kentucky has 15 blue-chip athletes on their roster. That's what they got. They got 15 guys that were 4-star or better on their roster. Auburn has 46. That is
slightly more than 15 if you're good at math.
So while we don't know what the Auburn guys can do, and I understand, I love Mark Stoops. I absolutely do. I like Kentucky. I like how they play. I'm glad that Terry Wilson's back. I love all of it, right? I love watching Boogie play. I love watching all these dudes. And while I'm not an Auburn fan, I got to tell you, I really think that they are going to win this game by double digits today.
Yeah, I do too. Kentucky doesn't have anybody that can keep up with the speed of Auburn's receivers. And we just talk about, yes, Auburn lost two of the best defensive linemen in the country last year. Guess what? They do that every other year. And if you're not paying attention, whoever, I don't know the names of the new guys coming in, but I assure you they are blue chip athletes and they'll be playing on Sundays.
Okay? They most certainly will.
You just don't know their name, and so we're not giving them credit. But this is why these big-time SEC teams recruit. Auburn, Georgia, LSU, and Alabama rotate defensive linemen in year over year like it's a revolving door. They have my entire life. So if you're just going to chalk up and say Georgia, Kentucky's got the better defensive line, you're wrong. You're just wrong on that, and you haven't been paying attention to recruiting.
Yeah. That's the way it goes. The Jalen 143 says, I want to take Auburn so bad. James Hines said, don't take SEC during the first week. Daniel said, I like Kentucky. Jace Gum says, I took the points with my cat. James said 46 is better than 15. Daniel said, I took Kentucky with the points at +8. Let's see. WTF, that means even Auburn's bench is full of 4 and 5 stars. Yes, 100%. Daniel said earlier in the week, you could get like 8 earlier. It opened at 9.
It opened at either 8 or 8.5.
No, so according to SBR, it opened at 9. So it's
down. It's moving down a lot.
It's moving down a lot because everybody is on Kentucky. All these national guys are on Kentucky. This would be the one. And don't get me wrong, I could see it happening.
Well, I'd be surprised if Kentucky covers this line or wins the game. No, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. I just don't think it's going to happen.
James said, you're not an Auburn fan. Of course, you have all your teeth. Man, I ain't trying to get on nobody's bad side this morning. We trying to have a good day. SEC football is back. Let's go. All right. We're moving into the 1 o'clock slot. And before I do that, if you would, all of you guys that are watching, we got 210 people, 211 now watching. If you would do us a favor, go ahead and hit that like button right there on your screen. We would certainly appreciate that. Jump in with your comments. I would love to see what all you guys are thinking about these games. We want your opinion. We are not always right. Not in the slightest. I had an awful week last week. I went 2-4 last week. It was putrid. But Chris went 3-2. And I've got an overall winning record. So, we're all right. We're doing all right. But I want to see what you got to say about these games. Chris, let's move into FIU and Liberty. Now, we've got a couple of guys that jump on this channel here whenever we go live, and they want to know what is going on with Liberty. They want to know our thoughts on Hugh Freeze's boys and Malik Willis and that bunch. And I got to tell you, they really impressed against Western Kentucky last week. FIU with Butch Davis, this is the kind of team that comes out of nowhere, and nobody's thinking about FIU. Nobody's worried about it, but I'm worried about FIU because they haven't practiced a whole lot. They had shut down their camp for a while. They've just been piecing it together. Not a big fan of that. But I don't know. This line is sitting at 7.5, 8. Is Liberty, double digits better than FIU?
I don't know the answer to that. I'm staying away. I want to see FIU play. A little bit of this seems like over exaggeration and a correction from Liberty from last week.
Yeah, because I mean, Liberty was a 14.5-point underdog at Western Kentucky, and they won outright.
Yeah, it was not just one outright. They kind of beat the hell out of them.
Yeah, they really, if you go look at that box score, I mean, good gracious, James jumped in. Hugh Freeze can coach. So glad LSU doesn't have to face him. Hey, you got that right. So that's and nobody in the SEC wanted to play against Hugh Freeze. That's just the way it is. Arthur jumps in. He said, "You both need a good week." Yeah, you got that right. We need a good week this week. Travis said, "Liberty, baby. FIU has a lot of transfers from the SEC, but they haven't practiced or even played." Yeah, he said, and they replaced their quarterback. 100%. Now, Liberty was replacing their quarterback as well, but Malik Willis looked good. He looked good. Let's move into – so we're not touching Eastern Kentucky and Citadel. No way, no how. I will say this. Eastern Kentucky is terrible. So if I had to bet that, I'd go with Citadel, but, it's 11 points or whatever. Or no, it's down to like 8.5. Whatever.
Seems like we're touching them.
Moving into the Big 12 here, Iowa State and TCU, and Matt Campbell has kind of had Gary Patterson's number for the last couple of years.
Yes, he has.
But this line is sitting at 3 for Iowa State. It has moved. Now, according to SBR, it's moved from -2.5 up to -3.5 at some spots. It's sitting at -3. I really like TCU's defense in this game. Brock Purdy did not look great in week 1. The offensive and defensive lines for Iowa State were not overly impressive.
Agreed.
I'm taking a chance here, and I'm going TCU to cover the 3, but I think TCU is going to win the game.
I do too. I think Gary Patterson's had bad years the last 2 years in a row. That is very unlike Gary Patterson coach football teams, and I think this defense is going to be the difference in this game. And we saw if you come out and you line up and you hit, Louisiana did it to them. You hit Iowa State and you play them hard and tough in the trenches, they can't move the football. They can't score.
Yeah.
They can't go on long drives, and they can't make big plays. I don't know how you put points on the board if you can't do that. It's going to be TCU giving them the football is how they're going to score if they win this game and if they cover.
Yes, 100%. And I've got faith that they will have those problems corrected. That's my idea on it. So I like TCU a lot in this spot. I'm not touching the total on that one. It's sitting at 43.5, 44. It's too low for me, but I don't trust either one of these teams to score. So I ain't touching it. James said, what makes me think that they can actually beat TCU? That's the question, right? Like at the same time, like, I don't know what to make of it fully. I do think that TCU's defense is what I trust on the field in this game. So I'm all in on that one. Isaiah Clark jumps in. He said, South Carolina beating Tennessee, would not be upset with it. Yep, absolutely. We'll get to that in the night slate here momentarily. Let's see. Isaiah said, what's going on with Carolina and Tennessee losing today? Cameron Sell is Miami only -11 because of the FSU jersey. It's got a lot to do with it for sure. Daniel jumped in and said, great show, guys. Hey, thank you. We appreciate that. You guys are fantastic. We appreciate the love. Moving to 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. Well, I guess this would be the same thing. It'd be 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. I got it wrong on my sheet here. Tulane at Southern Miss. Tulane is currently a 3.5-point favorite pretty much across the board. You can find it at 4 if you want to go with Southern Miss. Scotty Waldron did not win his initial game as head coach against Louisiana Tech. They came back and scored late in the game. Willie Fritz had a 24-0 lead over Navy at home and got beat 27-24. I was irritated about it.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know. Well,
I can't explain it.
I'm not touching this game because I don't know which Tulane team is going to show up. Every game has been a tale of two halves. Like they scored 6 points in the first half against South Alabama and then completely shut down South Alabama and came back to win 27-24. They completely shut down Navy in the first half and were up 24-0 and came back and got beat 27-24 in the second. I don't know who's going to show up. I got no idea. So yeah, I'm staying away from.
We need Tulane to see Tulane play a complete game.
Yes, indeed. Moving into the 3:30 p.m. Eastern time slot, West Virginia at Oklahoma State. And Chris, you have actually got a bet on this game. Tell me your thoughts here.
I mean, there's been a lot of line movement. I got them at 8.5. I'm really glad I had them at 8.5. This line has come all the way down to 6.5. You can get it at a couple of places at 6. So,
Yeah. You're going the other way, like you can still get it at 6 over
I
at
like Neil Brown. I think Neil Brown is going to be the new face of offense for the Big 12, and I think Mike Gundy is maybe not on his way out, but I just wonder how long is he going to be able to keep doing the same tricks that he's been doing for a really long time.
Yeah, that's if Spencer Sanders is not playing, that's going to be a major problem. The offensive line was a big time issue.
Well, therein lies the issues. I don't know that the quarterback matters so much if you can't stop anybody in the trenches.
Oh, that's 100% true. Look, Tulsa had 14 tackles for loss against them.
That's the problem. Is West Virginia is a hell of a lot better on defense than Tulsa.
Isaiah Clark jumped in. He said, "Should I take UCF for the first half or for the whole game?"
I don't know what the first half line is. I'm not looking at that, but I like them for the game.
14.
That's one of my best bets.
First half line for UCF is 14.5. That'd probably be the right way to go. So I'd feel better about them in the first half than I would for the whole game. Just saying. Darren said, "Where is Chris's fire this morning?" Chris is. Go ahead.
It was in a clear bottle last night. No, and there's also, we haven't hit on anything that's actually got. Look, it's not manufactured, guys. It's when it comes up, it comes up. When the beast roars, it roars, and that's just it.
No, we are getting into some good games. We had somebody jump in and said Mountaineers, baby. We had somebody else jump in and ask if we were going to discuss Virginia and Duke. We are going to hit every game on the board, and we are going through the list over at sbrodds.com. No worries. We're jumping through the time slots. Moving on, Texas at Texas Tech. That is a really big line. It's 18 right now. It's 17.5, wherever you want to get it. I'll go ahead and remind you guys that we talked about this the other day, and Texas Tech gave up 572 passing yards to Houston Baptist, and they were a 2-point conversion away from having to go to overtime as a 39-point favorite. That's not good. But they did, however, get 2 weeks off to prep up for this game. You have to wonder, were they looking ahead to Texas? I don't think Texas Tech is that bad, but I do think the fact that they've got like 3 or 4 different guys that just joined the team 2-3 weeks ago on defense that are actually starting, they're not really going to know the scheme. There's going to be issues with communication. There's going to be all kinds of problems. I would have to ride Texas here. The line is a little too big for me, especially on the road, but there's not a massive contingency of fans coming out or anything. I know I keep saying on the road. Chris and I have been talking back and forth about this. There's not a home field advantage this year. There's a little one, but not a big one like we're used to. I'd have to roll Texas here. Chris, is there anything about this game that excites you?
No.
Well, then let's talk about one that does. Let's talk about Mississippi State at LSU. It's rotation 433, 434. This is the CBS 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff game, and this is your boys. Tell me why people should take LSU at -15 at a couple of spots.
I don't know that they should. I'm not going to tell you that. This game terrifies the hell out of me, and you know that. Oh, man. So, Mike, we're going to see Mike Leach in the SEC, okay? This is what I've been waiting for, 15 years to find and see and have. And we're getting it today, and my guys get to line up against him first. I think Mississippi State's offense is going to be really good. I think they're going to put up 30-plus points. It's really hard to cover big numbers if the other team scores that much. Maybe LSU's defense is just a lot better than I'm giving them credit for. I don't think they're bad. I'm not knocking my school at all. I love them, and I think they're going to be really, really good this year. I just want to get out with a win. 15 points, 15.5 points, way too many. The line movement on this thing scares the hell out of me.
Oh, it opened at 19.5. It's down to 15 at some spot.
Almost 60% of the action is on LSU, and the number is getting not a little smaller, a lot smaller. So that's the kind of stuff that I just want to get out with a win. I'm excited to see my team because to say it's a completely different team than last year is an understatement. It's a completely different team than last year.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there are so few people coming back.
It's not even the personnel. It's the scheme. I mean, they're moving from Dave Aranda's 3-4 scheme to Bo Pelini's 4-3. That's a completely different defensive lineup. That's like it takes a bit to be able to figure that out. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. And don't underestimate the Mississippi State defense here. I know they've lost a bunch of dudes to the NFL, but they are running Zach Arnett's 3-3-5 defense.
They're running the 3-3-5 also, which is just a weird defense that you just don't see very often.
Yes, you have got that right. The Jalen 143 said LSU won't cover, but they'll win. James Pine said, Leach can coach. He knows what he's doing if he's sober. Terry said Bulldogs need to pull the upset. Let's get that win, boys. That's what I'm talking about. We got a couple of let's go Pits in there. James said the rivalry is very personal between LSU and Mississippi State. I don't know if that was personal.
I didn't know it was a rivalry.
Who knows? Who knows?
I don't know that you told the boys in Baton Rouge that.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? Travis Overstreet said Texas Tech, their running back became a NASCAR driver and got arrested. So yeah, he may not be playing tonight. That's another reason I would side with Texas, but it ain't my thing. Let's see. Francisco Anaya said, explain line movement really quickly. Why does it scare you?
Because if the majority of people are betting LSU, the line should be getting bigger because they're the favorite. The fact that people are betting LSU and the line is getting smaller.
It's called reverse line movement. Yeah. So it's like the books want you to bet a certain way. And that's when you get a little scared of it, right?
Yeah. There are people to continue to bet LSU.
You got it. Let's stay in that 3:30 Eastern time slot. Army is traveling to Cincinnati. I think this might be the most interesting game of the day, especially for myself. I love watching defensive football teams that like to run the football. This is a very interesting one. It will be on my second TV right beside LSU and Mississippi State. I liked Army a lot when it was 14, and it is down all the way to 11.5 at some spots. You can still find a 13 here and there. I'd still might side Army. They are 8-1-1 as a double-digit underdog in their last 10 on the road. And now that's against the spread. Obviously, they're only like 1-9 straight up, but they tend to keep these games close. Cincinnati returns a ton of people on defense, right? They got their entire defensive line back. They got their entire secondary back. However, they have new starters at linebacker at every position, and that's a massive, massive thing when you are talking about going against the triple option. You have to have sound defensive gap play, and I don't know that Cincy is going to be fully prepped for this game. I understand that they played Navy 2 years ago, so they've had to prepare for it back then. But this game was just scheduled on August 26th. It is now September 26th. You've had a month of knowing that you're going to play this game, and you still had to prep for it. And not that you had to prep a ton for Austin Peay, but you got to get your guys ready to play, not just prepped up to play the triple option. I think it's going to be a close ball game. I don't like Army as much at plus 12, plus 11.5 or whatever. I liked it a ton at 14. And luckily, I got it at 14. I would still side with Army here. Chris, you kind of think the same thing?
I don't know, man. I'm staying away from this. I like Cincinnati. I think they're a really good football team, and people just aren't giving them that kind of credit. I know we all love Army, and we all love the way Army plays, and they're tough, and they're good. Man, Cincinnati has some dudes on that team. I just think Army's going to have a hard time scoring, and I think that defense is going to have a hard time stopping Cincinnati.
No, that makes sense. Let's see, the sour Enthones. I don't know how that. See, he said, "Do you guys do best bets?" Yes. At the end of the day, we'll tell you what we're really thinking. So no worries there. This is Game 7 with Army versus Cincinnati, 3-3. That's interesting. I did not realize that. James said, "Can Cincy slow them down?" I think they can. They absolutely can. I also think that Army's defense can slow down Cincinnati. Desmond Ridder. I want him to be really, really good, but he has declined basically every year. He didn't look great last week. He didn't look great last year after having a fantastic first season starting. So we'll see from there. UTEP and Louisiana Monroe, not a lot to discuss there. These are two dreadful teams, and yet somehow Louisiana Monroe is a 9.5-point favorite. I ain't touching it because my daddy taught me you don't ever bet on bad football teams to be good. So we'll move on from there. Georgia at Arkansas. This is 4 p.m. Eastern time. It's 4:25, 4:26 rotation numbers. Chris, you got any thoughts on Sam Pittman welcoming the Bulldogs up to Fayetteville?
Before we started, I was trying to talk to you about talking myself into Arkansas.
I can't do it.
I My issue is and the first question I asked was is there a world in which Georgia's offense isn't good? And that's where the whole concern started. You got Felipe Franks on the other side, who's the best quarterback that's played at Arkansas in the last, I don't know, 3-4 years. I got Pittman, who knows Arkansas, Georgia inside and out. And I mean, I got a defensive coordinator that I trust. I got an offensive coordinator that I love. And
yeah, Kendall Browse likes to push tempo and
what are we getting? 28 points?
Yeah, it's 20. Yeah, you can get 28 at several spots right now. 27.5, most places. 28.
That's that if I had to pick it, I think I'm probably gonna lean Arkansas.
If you can get 4 touchdowns, I would not be against it. But again, this goes into what I was just saying. Don't bet on a bad team to be good. At this point, you are banking on Georgia just not wanting to blow out one of their guys, right? Like, is that kind of what we're?
No, I mean, I wonder, is there any world in which Georgia can't blow them out?
Well, all right. So Kendall Browse pushes tempo, which means that sometimes the defense can be put in really precarious situations, and they don't have a lot of talent on defense. Georgia could hand the ball off to Zamir White every play and probably win this game by 28 points.
All right, you're right. They can do that, but they have somebody with one of those weird oxymoron names like calling me Slim and Kirby Smart as the coach, who's never proven that, oh, this is working, let's keep doing that. Oh, no, something worked, let's do something completely different next.
Yeah, okay. You have a valid point there. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it would be a bad play to play Arkansas plus 28. Like, this has a 31-7 kind of game written all over it, because I think Georgia's defense will be able to keep them at bay. It's going to take a little while for Kendall Browse and Felipe Franks to kind of get on the same page, I think. But, well, we'll see. I hate betting on bad football teams, and Arkansas is not good yet. I think they could be sometime, maybe not this season, but I can't do it. But I would not besmirch you for doing it. So we'll move on. 449 and 450 is Duke and Virginia. And we had somebody requesting us talking about this one. I don't think Duke was as bad last week against Boston College as I initially thought. They were able to move the football, but my God, they turned it over 5 times, and they allowed Boston College to just kind of take over, and the momentum completely got out of hand in the second half. I think Duke is okay. It's down to 4.5 in some spots. There's 65% of the wagers coming in on Duke. I don't like that, but I don't hate Duke here. This is a stay away game for me, but I don't think Duke is that bad. There were a lot of people that were high on Virginia earlier in the week, but I think they could possibly be having some COVID issues that I saw this morning. We don't know exactly what's going on there. Absolute stay away from me. Chris, you got to play on that game? Nope. So Cutcliffe and that bunch, I'm not all on. Texas State and Boston College is the next one up. And let me tell you this. I got a ticket on Boston College at minus 18 earlier in the week, and I didn't give it out as an official pick because I didn't feel great about it. And now we got 92% of the wagers coming in on Boston College and new coach Jeff Hafley and that bunch. They are now up to 21 in some spots, 20.5 as a favorite. The total is 56.5, 57. I did give out on our article this week over at sbrpicks.com/NCAAF. I gave out Boston College, Texas State over 57. A lot of people thinking this thing's going to go under. I'm not in on that belief at all. Boston College has a ton of weapons on offense. And yes, I understand they just lost wide receiver Kobe White for the season. They got way more than that guy. And Texas State has got gunslingers at quarterback, and they've got some athletes at wide receiver. While the success rates are not fantastic, there are explosive plays abound between these two teams. I think this thing is going to go over. And I still kind of like Boston College to be able to win this one fairly big. The total is the play for me. It's over 56.5 here. But I ain't touching the spread. If I had to go one way, I'd lean Boston College, but I ain't doing that. Chris, let's see. Anything on Houston Baptist, Louisiana Tech, or SFA, SMU? Nope, not a thing. Let's roll in. Alabama, Missouri. Alabama is currently a 29-point favorite, 29.5 at some spots if you would like to go the other direction. Chris, tell me your thoughts here. Is this
what?
Is this too many points?
No. Bama's going to kill them.
12-1 against the spread. Nick Saban is in season openers, and he's won by an average of 31 points. So, but I don't like that it just continues to grow and grow and grow and grow. But hey, when you see one side, you got to roll with it, right? You got to roll with it. Florida State and Miami is the key game this evening. This one is currently rotation 395, 396. It is currently at 10.5 as Miami is a favorite in this game. They are playing down in Hard Rock Stadium. Florida State, this is their first game back since being beaten at home by Georgia Tech. Miami coming off of two rather impressive wins over UAB and at Louisville. And De'Aaron King looks pretty good. Everybody is all worshiping at the altar of Rhett Lashley, and Manny Diaz has got the U back, baby. That's right. Maybe pump the brakes a little bit on the excitement. I understand that Miami won by 17 in this slot last year, but this is like the perfect setup, right? This is, hey, nobody thinks, and I understand Florida State's coach is out with COVID. I get that. He's coaching remotely. Kenny Dillingham is calling the plays. I think they're going to be okay. I think Florida State is not as bad as they showed in the first game. Do you kind of agree with this, Chris?
100%. 100%. I think Florida State's going to play better. I don't think they're going to win the game. I think they're going to play better. And yeah, I think we're getting a little overhype and a little inflation on Miami. You're getting the worst number you could possibly get right here.
Yes, I agree. My numbers had it at 8. That's not way off. It was up to like 11.5, 12 earlier in the week. Now it's coming back down, so that's good. But you can still get it at 10.5. Like you can still get it at 11 at Bovada. I mean, that's just nuts to me. All right, moving on. We've only got a few more games here, and we got to get out of here so that you guys can go and enjoy the college football afternoon, college football day. Make sure that you watch the NBA show if you want to get in on Jam and J Money and the bunch. They have been rocking and rolling with the NBA picks so far through the conference finals. So stay tuned up for them. Moving on, 405 and 406 rotation number, Tennessee at South Carolina. This is sitting at 4 now, 4.5 in favor of Tennessee at a couple of spots. I was a little shocked at this. Tennessee has not won a game outright as a road favorite since early 2016. That ain't good. So I like South Carolina a lot. My numbers have South Carolina actually as a pick 'em in this spot. I think South Carolina is the play for me. I like Colin Hill. I like what he's doing. Colin West is a guy I used to tour with. Colin Hill, quarterback that came over from Colorado State. He knows Mike Bobo's offense. I really like South Carolina in this spot. I like Jeremy Pruitt. I like what Tennessee's doing. I just think this is a setup. You kind of feel the same way, Chris?
Yeah, I like Tennessee. I like what Pruitt's doing as well. But game 1 against Coach Boom, going to South Carolina, I think South Carolina is going to be ready to play.
I think so as well. Kansas Baylor, your boy Les Miles, he heads over to meet the apprentice, I guess you could say. He hired in Dave Aranda as his defensive coordinator at LSU. Aranda now the head coach at Baylor. This line is 17.5. It's kind of sat there for a good portion of the week. You could have gotten it at 16.5 a couple of spots earlier in the week, but 97% of the wagers are on Baylor. They do return a great quarterback. Charlie Brewer is fantastic, but they lost a lot on defense last year. Is there any way that Kansas keeps this thing even remotely close?
I don't think so. I'd love for them to, but I don't know that they can.
Baylor has won every game against Kansas over the last 6 years by an average of like 35 points.
Yeah.
They won 61-6 last year.
Yeah.
So it's pretty crazy. The Colonel jumped in. He said the Vols need to not get cute tonight and pass happy. They need to ride the offensive line to victory with the run game. Yeah, there are ways to win this thing. Let's see. Malari, wow, no coach, lost last year by 17. Bad week 1 loss. Still, I don't know. Well, because Florida State still got talent, and this is still a rivalry game. What do you want me to do? Good gracious. I'm trying to be smart with these picks. We got 4 more games here to hit. Vanderbilt and Texas A&M. There's not a lot to discuss here. Vanderbilt may not score in this game. Their team total on this game is 7.5, and the under is juiced at -140. That should tell you everything you need to know. This is basically whether or not there are any weapons left at all in College Station for Jimbo Fisher and Kellen Mond to get the ball out to. Do you think that this is this a good spot? Is this would you take Texas A&M -30 or 31?
I wouldn't touch this because the number's too big, but I think Texas A&M's going to kill them.
I can get with you on that. North Carolina State, Virginia Tech is the second to last one we're going to hit. So Justin Fuente, the head coach of Virginia Tech, came out and basically said, "Hey, we don't even know if we're going to be able to field a team. Like, we had to cancel a couple of games earlier." It's 6.5 right now. It came down from 8.5 at the opening. Any thoughts here?
Nope.
Not at all. All right. We're going to skip over Missouri State and Central Arkansas, and we'll close out with the, I guess you call it Pac-12 After Dark. This is the late game, 10:15 p.m. Eastern time, and then we'll give out our picks after that. Troy and BYU, it is sitting at 14.5 in favor of BYU. Troy looked fantastic in dismantling MTSU. BYU has not played since they absolutely wrecked Navy in week 1. I got to tell you this. I like BYU, but I don't like them enough to lay more than 14. And I may not even like them enough to lay 14. I think that Navy game was a just complete throwaway game, because while BYU looked really good, I think a lot of that had to do with Navy. You kind of feel the same way?
Yeah, I like Troy more than most here, but I'm staying away from it.
Yeah, that's an absolute stay away for me. We'll go through our picks again right quick, and then we're going to get out of the way. I've got South Carolina +3.5. I've got Auburn -7, or I guess it's at -6.5 now. I like Pittsburgh -2.5. I like TCU +3.5, and I that's a money line sprinkle thing for me. Same with South Carolina. I think both those teams could win the game outright. Army, it's not my favorite pick at +12, but I would still probably roll with that. I got it at 14 earlier in the week, and I've got UCF and East Carolina at the under 77. It's at 78 now. So yeah, I especially like that under 78. Chris, are you adding anything to your picks?
Nope. UCF, Syracuse, Ole Miss, and West Virginia.
There you go. The Colonel said, "I love the under in BYU Troy." Hey, I got to tell you, I'm not a fan of 59.5 points or 60 points at some spots. I might like that under. All right, you guys have been absolutely fantastic this morning. SEC football is back. We are ready to watch the big boys play. Hopefully, you guys will do us a favor. Go over to sbrpicks.com/NCAAF. Stay with us all season long. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Everybody that has jumped in the chat, we appreciate you very, very much. I hope that you will come back and join us again next week, Tuesday night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, and Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Go get in your bets. You can find the best odds at sbrpicks.com/NCAAF. Make sure you like the video, share it out, and that you subscribe to the page. Chris, is there anything else that we need to hit?
No, let's go.
Let's roll. We will see you guys next time for sportsbookreview.com. I'm Gary.
I'm Chris.
We'll see you next time.